I mean, clearly, to your point, there's been an escalation. Yesterday was a very worrying escalation. The fact that the so-called police moved in to the grounds of the Chinese university in Hong Kong, a place that they hadn't really been active before. There's a very important communications hub inside that university, which I understand they're taking a particular interest in. I would say, well, you've asked me what do I think needs to be done. I think that there is an awareness on the street, if you might call it, in the West, that this massive repression is taking place against the people of Hong Kong. It started off with their objections against an extradition treaty being established with the Communist Party of China, and they were absolutely right to object to that. A number of things need to be done. So, for example, this week, Greece, a member of the European Union, signed an agreement with the government in Beijing as part of the 17+1 agreement, and included in the deal with Greece is an extradition treaty with China. I think that Greece needs, countries like Greece, countries in the European Union, need to make it absolutely clear that nothing of the sort will take place. I think the West needs to, and it has been doing it, but I think we need to do maybe a better job of making it crystal clear that another Tiananmen Square will not be acceptable, and that there will be an enormous price to pay if there is another Tiananmen Square exercised against the people of Hong Kong. I'm old enough to remember Tiananmen Square and what happened that year. Of course, hindsight is 20/20, and you can debate these things, but perhaps if the signaling to Beijing had been a little bit different and a little bit stronger at the time, it might not have happened. It was interesting because a few months later in 1989, and we've just celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Berlin Wall coming down, the West was caught flat-footed when the Berlin Wall came down. The establishment didn't expect that it would happen. They didn't even know what to do for a while. It really did catch them unexpected. And we were very, very lucky that the machine guns didn't open up from East Berlin at that time, because God knows what would have happened. But this is the time that try men's morals and souls. And there are not that many times in a lifetime where the nations, where democratic nations are called to make it very clear that there are basic and fundamental rules of human rights and decency, and lines that cannot be crossed, and if they are crossed, that there will be a price to be paid. The other thing to remember is that the West is not top-down in terms of its decision-making, and Beijing might do very well to remember that, because sometimes we forget it. We focus and concentrate on leaders, presidents, prime ministers, whoever it might be. The West is bottom-up. Politicians react to, as they should, the needs and wants of their voters. And the street, the voters in the West, have now got access to information, and they can see exactly what's going on in Hong Kong. It's not going to be possible. They can seize the communication center in the Chinese university in Hong Kong, but information is still going to get out, and it gets out. We know about the concentration camps in China. We know there's at least 1 million people in them. Maybe there's 2 million, maybe there's more. We don't know the exact number. We haven't got perfect information, but we know that that's going on. We know there's organ harvesting. These are things that cannot be kept secret anymore. We know the repression. We know the model that the Communist Party of China under Secretary General Xi is exercising. We know all of that. So Hong Kong should take heart insofar as that the people in the democratic world, voters in the democratic world, can see perfectly well what is going on. Keep the information coming, and it will keep coming. The Communist Party is not going to be able to shut it down. They don't control our communications networks, at least they don't yet. So I think that there is hope. I think that there is an increased likelihood of a Tiananmen Square, but I think that if folks in Beijing are calculating that there will not be a serious price to be paid for that, and that it will not massively shift public sentiment, then they are miscalculating. After Tiananmen Square, there were some sanctions and there was horror, and I remember it. But we believed, many of us believed, that, and particularly after the Berlin Wall came down, that, well, the Communist Party of China will sort of fade away, that capitalism and access to free markets will change communist China. You know, Lenin, is the legendary Lenin quote supposedly is that Lenin said, you know, the capitalists will sell us the rope with which we will hang them. I think Leninism with so-called Chinese characteristics has changed that into being, we will sell the capitalists the rope with which we will hang them. What we didn't factor in, I think, after Tiananmen Square is that when the Communist Party stays in charge, that the people that run those apparatus are not morally sound people, that they are not the same as Democrats, that they have got to the position that they are in through tyranny and a tyrannical system, and therefore they believe in it because it's worked for them. And to establish a moral equivalency, and we've seen this with some Western businesses say, well, you know, it's all the same, one government's the same as the next, their system's just different to ours, we have to respect that. No, we don't. We don't have to respect that. We never respected the Soviet Union system of tyrannical communism, and that's how we beat them. We respect the Chinese people, and if we do respect the Chinese people, we should want them to be able to enjoy the fruits of freedom and democracy and free markets in the same way that everybody else does. Now, should we go to war with China to do that? No, we shouldn't. Of course we shouldn't do that. But we certainly should not do anything to help the Communist Party of China repress its own people. I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not a political leader, but if I was, I certainly wouldn't allow there to be any room for misunderstanding. I think that creative ambiguity in this place is destructive ambiguity. I think that it's better not to be ambiguous. I can understand why people might want to be ambiguous, but I would say this to the people in Beijing who are calculating what they're going to do, and doubtless they watch this program because it's a particular irritant to them. And I would say this, if you're just looking at the leaders and what they are saying or not saying, you're looking in the wrong place. You need to look at the street. This is not a top-down situation. This is not the same as the Communist Party of China. Our politicians look down, and they look down to what the street is saying and how they're reacting. And they will, information now and the availability of information is vastly more democratized than it was in 1989. In 1989, when we found out what was happening in Tiananmen Square, we found out from the BBC, we found out from CNN and other such outlets. When the next Tiananmen Square starts, God forbid that it does, but if it does, we will find out on social media first. And social media will be what triggers the big media outlets to start covering it. It's highly democratized information. That information is going to get out. They will not be able to contain it. And politicians react to what their voters and electorate think. And what the Communist Party of China cannot do, because people don't have, you cannot compromise the morals of billions of people. You might be able to compromise the morals of a few business people, but you can't compromise the morals of billions of voters, because they don't care about your Communist Party. They do care about innocent lives and the basic rights that the people of Hong Kong, and for that matter the people of China, enjoy. They do care if and when human organs are being trafficked out of concentration camps. They care about those things. You can't keep covering that up, and you can't contain information. You couldn't contain it in 1989. You're going to be much less able to contain it now.